you get here to the airport, you're expecting to check into a flight, you find out that it's canceled. There's a lot of plans that are ruined.
All right, it is Monday, December 18th. The Fox News alert: chaos in Atlanta, Georgia. A crippling blackout at the world's busiest airport, causing a holiday travel nightmare. Thousands of people stranded for 11 hours in the dark. The scramble this morning to get things back on track.
No, I'm not. No.
President Trump setting the record straight after days of speculation. The key players set to be grilled on the Hill today over allegations of bias.
And putting America first, our commander-in-chief unveiling a new security strategy, what we just learned about his big announcement and what it means for the nation of China. Fox and Friends First continues right now.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I know you got a little cold, but
in the big girl chair.
In the big girl chair.
Yeah, that's right. I do have a cold.
We're going to get you through.
But
Don't worry about it. Happy Monday.
Yeah, okay.
I'm Rob Schmidt. Thanks for starting your day with us. And we begin with a Fox News alert today. The lights are now back on at the world's busiest airport.
A massive power outage brought Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta to a complete standstill for 11 hours. Now, more than 1,000 flights in and out grounded, passengers stranded in dark terminals and trapped on planes for hours.
The lights flickered once. It was really scary, but we were like, hopefully nothing happens. And then they flickered again, and they didn't come back.
I literally spent a whole 7 hours on an airplane without food or water.
We have to go through the tunnels that are pitch black. It's scary.
Officials say a fire at an underground electrical facility is to blame. 300 flights already canceled this morning as we begin one of the busiest travel weeks of the year. Now, we will have much more on this in a live report from the Atlanta airport over the next half hour.
Terrible timing for that.
Awful timing. Rebuilding our military and taking on terror. President Trump making good on his America First promise.
He is set to unveil his first national security strategy today. And Kelly Wright is live in Washington with the first look at what exactly we can expect on this. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, Rob and Carly, good to see you as well. A senior administration official says the president is excited about his administration's national security strategy and that he personally wants to introduce it to the American people. So he will deliver his first major speech on this topic later today. Here is what we can expect from the commander-in-chief. Starting with, senior administration officials say he will lay out 4 pillars of national security strategy: protecting the homeland, promoting American prosperity, preserving peace through strength, and advancing American influence abroad. Now, during his weekly address, the president urged Congress to stop playing politics with the military and provide more funding for the military, and to end chain migration to protect the homeland.
It is time to create a merit-based immigration system that makes sense for a modern economy, selecting new arrivals based on their ability to support themselves financially and to make positive contributions to U.S. society. This process begins with Congress passing a bill to end chain migration and also end the visa lottery.
On the economic front, the president will talk about the imbalance of trade the U.S. has with China. On Fox News Sunday, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin discussed the administration's push for fair trade.
This isn't about trade wars. This is about reciprocal fair trade. And if we have to protect American workers and put on tariffs or other things where they don't have fair trade with us, the president will do that.
And senior administration officials also say the national security strategy document is mandated by law and must be given to Congress. The official adds no administration has ever finished it in its first year. They add the Trump administration has completed it in 11 months. Back to you.
Okay. Kelly, thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, today kicks off a big week on Capitol Hill. Investigators from our nation's top agencies will be grilled about allegations of bias within the FBI and the Department of Justice.
Now, everyone is asking, will President Trump fire special counsel Robert Mueller? Todd Pyro joins us with the answer to that and the latest in the investigation that is changing by the day. What's going on, Todd?
Carly and Rob, great to see you. First up, Bruce Ohr. He is expected to testify today in a closed-door hearing before the Senate Intelligence Committee. You'll recall he's the former Associate Deputy Attorney General demoted at the Justice Department in the wake of revelations about undisclosed meetings he had with officials from Fusion GPS. That's the company that commissioned the anti-Trump dossier containing salacious allegations about then candidate Donald Trump. Ohr's wife, Nellie Ohr, worked at Fusion GPS, specifically on Trump-related issues. And tomorrow, it's Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe. He will appear before the House Intelligence Committee, where Republicans on the panel are likely to grill him about Bruce Ohr and FBI agent Peter Strzok. Of particular interest is a text from Strzok that makes an apparent reference to a conversation in August 2016 in McCabe's office, cryptically referencing an insurance policy if Trump won the election. With this as the backdrop, President Trump was asked yesterday about rumors he will fire Russia special counsel Robert Mueller.
No, I'm not. No.
But there's still the slew of Trump transition team emails obtained by Mueller as part of the probe, which Trump team lawyers say were obtained illegally.
It's not looking good. It's quite sad to see that. So my people were very upset about it. There's no collusion whatsoever, but a lot of lawyers thought that was pretty sad.
Mueller's team defended their possession of the emails, saying they were legally obtained in the course of an ongoing criminal investigation. Robin, Carly, back to you.
Okay, Todd, thank you so much. All right, Debbie Wasserman Schultz also set to face tough questions on Capitol Hill today. CNN reports the Florida Congresswoman will be interviewed by the House Intelligence Committee as part of its Russia probe. Wasserman Schultz resigned as DNC chair last July after leaked emails revealed that party officials were favoring Hillary Clinton to be the nominee instead of Bernie Sanders. She has also denied knowing about an arrangement for the DNC to help to fund the anti-Trump Russia dossier. The worldwide effort to nullify President Trump's historic Jerusalem decision is intensifying today. The United Nations Security Council is expected to vote on a measure from Egypt that would void the declaration of the ancient city as the capital of Israel. But the U.S. is expected to veto that. If that happens, the proposal may go to the UN General Assembly at that point. The vote comes after President Trump announced plans to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
A U.S. soldier killed in an ambush by Islamic State fighters fought until the very end and died in a hail of gunfire. Two senior defense officials tell Fox News Sergeant LaDavid Johnson was not executed or captured in the attack in Niger, as previous reports suggested. A military investigation found the 25-year-old was shot nearly 18 times. 3 other American soldiers, including two Green Berets, died in that attack. A fallen hero remembered as loved ones line the streets to say goodbye to San Diego firefighter Corey Iverson, who died battling that historic Thomas wildfire. The procession of first responders covering nearly 200 miles through Ventura and Orange counties. Iverson has been with the department since 2009 and leaves behind a 2-year-old daughter and a pregnant wife. A GoFundMe page for his family has already raised more than $400,000. The massive Thomas fire has scorched more than 400 square miles and is about 45% contained. Yikes.
Huge fire. All right, 10 minutes after the hour, Congress poised to pass tax reform this week. Why they'll possibly need to do it without Senator John McCain. We are live in Washington next.
Plus, bacon backlash. The CNN contributor now eating her words after calling a college student anti-Semitic over a costume. Now that student is responding.
And
a historic week starting today on Capitol Hill as Republicans unite behind their tax reform bill to deliver it to the American people in time for Christmas.
Yeah, Griff Jenkins is live in Washington this morning. Griff, it's starting to look like it's going to be a real thing. Where does it stand right now?
Well, you know, Robin, Carly, good morning. Critics said it couldn't be done, but the president is poised to prove them wrong in a major way this week. He predicted over the weekend on Twitter that he was going to deliver on that campaign promise of historic tax reform and says it's just days away. This, as Republican leaders say, they are confident they have the votes in this razor-thin majority, despite news that Senator McCain has returned to Arizona and will miss the vote. The president says he spoke with Mrs. McCain, and if needed, the senator would return.
I did speak to Cindy McCain, and I wish her well. I wish John well. They've headed back, but I understand he'll come if we ever needed his vote, which hopefully we won't.
Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin took to the Sunday shows touting the benefits this brings the middle class and the simplification of the system.
Over 90% of Americans are going to fill out taxes on that postcard or a virtual electronic postcard. This is about simplifying taxes and simplifying the business system. So there will always be people who complain that are losing tax breaks, but this is about making it simple for the American public.
But they're going to have to do it without a single Democrat. Senator Bernie Sanders says this is just a tax cut for the wealthy.
At the end of the day, what you had is people like Mr. Mnuchin, who himself is worth $300 or $400 million, the President of the United States, who is worth several billion dollars. What we are seeing here is a real massive attack on the middle class.
So here's where we are. The voting could begin as early as tomorrow. The goal for the president's signature by Friday, guys.
All right, Griff Jenkins, live in Washington, D.C. Thanks, Griff. Now, Democrats waging war against the Republican tax reform plan since day one.
That's right. Fox News contributor Kevin Jackson says this was never about the actual proposal. It is about Trump winning the White House.
2 words, we won. You know, they passed Obamacare. Most of the nation hated it. You've seen the outcome. At least with Trump, you've got 1 year under your belt. And consumer confidence through the roof, unemployment at an all-time low. I mean, what can you look at and go, this guy doesn't make it happen? So when he proposes something, at the very least, you can say, I've got a year of success. Contrast that with Obama's first year, where he had lost 4 million jobs, unemployment through the roof, and on. And why would you follow that logic? So Trump has a proven track record, and believe me, those Rust Belt Democrats and all the people that supported him, they understand.
Well, Democrats say they are voting no to this because it adds more than $1 trillion to the deficit and that too much of the cuts go to the wealthy instead of to the middle class. But the Trump administration maintains that families, most all families, will start seeing bigger paychecks come February.
All right, Doug Jones is not in Washington yet, but the new Alabama Senate-elect says he's already ready to reach across the aisle.
I'm going to be a Doug Jones Democrat for sure. I'm going to be looking at issues on both sides. I'm going to do what I believe is in the best interest of both the country and my state. Everybody thinks because you're a member of one party or another, you're going to vote a certain way. Don't expect me to vote solidly for Republicans or Democrats.
Jones also says the country needs to move on from sexual harassment allegations against President Trump. Jones was declared winner of last week's race against Republican Roy Moore, who still has not conceded.
A CNN contributor slammed for going out of bounds. Hillary Rosen wrongfully berating a Georgetown student because of the outfit that he was wearing. She tweeted, "Look at that guy. Look at the guy in the bacon suit." This is a Georgetown Hoyas fan's anti-Semitic smear to the Syracuse team. The student himself responding on Twitter, writing, "Hey, it's bacon, man. It's actually Mr. Bacon, pronounced bacon." I don't know what that means, but it's just a fun costume. He's basically saying it's just a joke. It's a fun costume. Rosen writing back, "Awesome," pretending she's happy about this. "You found me. Thanks for telling me. I'm new to this school rivalry and got some bad info. I apologize," and took my tweet down.
Okay,
brilliant
so
move.
Bacon should never be controversial for the record.
It's not.
2 key players set to testify on Capitol Hill this week amid bias claims within the Mueller probe. So who are they and what are their roles in all of this? Former CIA officer Buck Sexton here to break it all down next.
Plus, liberal Hollywood taking aim at Congressman Darrell Issa, how the Republican representative is now firing back.
That kind of love's just ain't for us. We crave a different kind of buzz. Let me be yours.
All right, top DOJ and FBI officials are preparing to be grilled by lawmakers on potential bias within Bob Mueller's Russia investigation, with some now saying that this, whatever this is, could be worse than Watergate.
Here to break down the key players and the role they play is former CIA officer Buck Sexton, a man who knows a whole lot. So Bruce Ohr is set to testify today, Andrew McCabe tomorrow. Can you tell us why lawmakers are concerned they are biased against President Trump, essentially?
Well, what you've seen here is a series of high-level DOJ and FBI officials who have been involved at key points, not just in the Russia collusion investigation, but also in the Hillary Clinton email investigation, which adds to the perception of partisanship here. And when you're talking about specifically Bruce Ohr, who's going to be testifying this week, this is somebody who met with Fusion GPS. The Fusion GPS so-called dossier may have been the basis for the entire counterintelligence investigation that led to the Russia collusion investigation. So in a sense, you have someone here who may have been around and involved in the very origins of all this Russia conspiracy mongering, and also, by the way, has a wife who was working for Fusion GPS. At some point, the coincidences pile up too high.
Yeah, and then we go to McCabe now, the FBI deputy director now, who was running the FBI for a short period of time. He was the interim at one point. And the conflict there is that his wife had gotten money. She's a state senator in, I believe, Virginia, and she had gotten money from some Hillary Clinton cronies and a pretty sizable amount of money as well. And this is the guy running the FBI.
Right. You have somebody who is acting FBI director whose wife has close ties to the DNC, to Terry McAuliffe, is running as a Democrat politician, and also is mentioned specifically, we believe, it's by first name, but it would make sense, in the text messages from Peter Strzok, who has referred to President Trump as loathsome. That in and of itself is in poor taste, but isn't necessarily problematic from a bias perspective. But when you look at the possibility of these former, or these FBI and DOJ, not former yet, officials saying that they wish there was an insurance policy in the case of Peter Strzok, that's where Andy McCabe, or Andrew McCabe's name, is a problem coming up in the investigation, as well as a whole bunch of other possible ties to the Clintons.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's that, I think there it is right there. There's that text message talking about that insurance policy. And it sounds like this conversation happened in McCabe's office.
Yes.
They're talking about Andy, and this is the guy running the FBI.
I think when you read that text, a fair-minded person would have to come away from it and say, hold on a second, what else could they be referring to? It's overwhelmingly likely they're talking about Andrew McCabe. So this isn't just people at the FBI. It's really important for everyone to understand that. These are people at the top level who could have very directly influenced the highest level of resource allocation and decisions made specifically about the Hillary Clinton email investigation and the Russia collusion probe that has been ongoing. So this is all very concerning stuff.
And that's not all. There are also other key players that come into this whole entire situation, Andrew Weissman being one of them. He praised Sally Yates, which could be deemed as some sort of bias against Trump as well. Explain that.
Well, again, everything that we're looking at with these high-level officials, including Sally Yates, has to be viewed through the context of there were some very political decisions made, from the tarmac meeting with Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton, to the Hillary Clinton no charges, to then the opening of the Russia collusion investigation, to the Flynn leaks. There's been all of these very politicized actions. And now we're seeing, and that's what's come out in the last week or so, that very senior level people already have a clear pro-Clinton, anti-Trump bias. And so in the case of Sally Yates, again, it's not that there's something that's inherently wrong in someone praising Yates. Weissman, who's a very senior DOJ guy, but what Yates did was grandstanding, and she shouldn't have been doing it. And it shows a leftist, anti-Trump, pro-Clinton, pro-Democrat bias, and so it just adds to the perception that this thing is rotten from the top down.
And Yates was refusing to impose the travel ban, and that's why she was praised by Weissman. That's where it came from. And yeah, this all, I mean, you look at all this, the obsession with the Russia collusion investigation within the media and by Democrats, and all of a sudden we see just a few people at the FBI could have been working against this election to try and fix this election. I mean, it's incredible to see.
This is a critical point, by the way.
Yeah.
People talk about Trump's war with the intelligence community, which I used to be a member of. They will say that he's now at war with the FBI. That's a smear. It's not true. A vast majority, 99% of people, either the intel community or the FBI, are just doing the jobs they're supposed to do, which is national security, law enforcement, but a very high-level cabal, if you will, of bitter, formerly pro-Clinton or still pro-Clinton people at that level could turn an entire investigation, and that's what people are concerned about.
Big deal.
Yeah, Buck, thank you so much for coming on this morning.
Great to see you guys. Thank you.
All right, 27 minutes after the hour, President Trump and Republicans about to pass major tax reform, it appears, without any help from Democrats. Is that a bad gamble by the left? We debate next.
And the message LeBron James is sending on the court with his shoes. Check that out. We'll explain coming up right after this.
Show me the meaning of life, meaning of life.
All right, welcome back. Republicans now eyeing the finish line on tax reform, but Democrats not backing down just yet.
Tax reform bill is a disaster. It helps the wealthiest, most powerful corporations and individuals, and it hurts the middle class.
But is this strategy a major miscalculation by the left? That's what we're talking about today. Joining me now to debate this is the executive director of the PAC, America Rising, Alexandra Smith, and Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha. Guys, thanks so much for coming on this morning. Alex, we're going to start with you. You've got this essential plan. We've all seen the bullet points of what this tax reform plan is many times, and now it's being blended together. You have two completely different sides on this. You have the Republicans saying this is the greatest thing ever, and Democrats saying this is a full-on assault on the middle class. How can you get two completely different stories from the same plan?
Well, of course, we have politics at play here once again. I mean, I think you can look no further to some of the Democratic rhetoric on this to see what their objective is. I think Senator Schumer called this a gift behind closed doors. Nancy Pelosi said that this was their roadmap to take back the House. And so I think that they're really aiming to ramp up the rhetoric on this just to achieve a single goal, which is to try to tank the GOP in 2018. Meanwhile, this tax plan is going to help millions of Americans. Whether you look at the increased standard deduction, both for individuals and for married couples, or the expanded child care tax credit, this is going to put money back into the wallets of the American people. So I think for the Democrats to be playing games like this is really going to hurt them in 2018.
Yeah, Chuck. Well, I mean, I think Chuck, you would argue that both sides use rhetoric all the time. But let's get down to the meat of the actual issues here. You know, the Democrats are trying to pose this as though it's going to be a tax cut for the corporations and the wealthy on the backs of the middle class. But it does appear that everybody gets a tax cut. Is the reality here that just the middle class is not getting as much of a cut as Democrats think they should be getting, and Democrats think that the big guys are getting too much of a cut?
Rob, let me be clear. I'm a political consultant. Rhetoric is my business. Chaos is good for me and my work. But let me be clear about this bill.
Sorry.
It's not really the Democrat or the Republicans. It's the people who think this is unpopular. And out there right now, this bill is the most unpopular tax bill in the history of our country. Sure, you're going to have people on my side saying you're not giving the poor guys anything. Everybody on the Republican side saying if you give all the rich guys a tax break, it'll trickle down. I'm in Miami today. Yesterday I was out fishing, and my fishing guide, unpromoted to me, said, Chuck, what's going on in Washington, and why they want to give all our money to the richest guys on Wall Street? I was like, I'm winning. This is good.
Well, I do think there's a point that the media is against it, and it also has Trump's name on it, which could be why it's very unpopular right now. Let's go to topic 2, though, real quick. I want to talk about 2018. And Chuck, we'll go back to you really fast. NBC saying that the Democrats have the biggest edge in decades in the midterms coming up here. What do you say?
Look, I'm not going to pound my chest because we're doing good. It's just a fact that no matter what president is in office, the opposite party always wins seats in the off year. But I think this is going to be a special year. I've been doing campaigns for 27 years, and I've never seen the groundswell of activism among the base of our party. So if those normal voters who vote in a presidential year come back and vote in an off year, it's going to be a big year for the Democrats.
Alex, we were just talking about this during the commercial break. This is a pendulum. It swung to the right last year, and you're saying it'll swing back.
Well, I mean, when you look at just how many candidates are running on the Democratic side, that's going to be a huge problem from them because their recruitment strategy, unlike a big year for them like 2006, isn't coming from the top down, it's coming from the bottom up. So you have all of these groups who are contributing candidates, and when all of these candidates are in the field and they're tearing voters apart over issues like impeachment and single-payer health care, I think what we're really going to see is that money's going to be spent early, money that can't be then spent in the general election. I think giving Republicans a little bit of an advantage.
All right. Well, we shall see. It was an NBC poll, and we all know how much we can trust polls after 2016, don't we, guys? Thank you so much for coming, for joining us this morning. We appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Carly, over to you.
Thanks, Rob. Putting America first. President Trump promising to build up our military in the face of terror. The commander-in-chief set to lay out his national security strategy today. Senior administration officials say he will lay out 4 pillars: protecting the homeland, promoting American prosperity, preserving peace through strength, and advancing American influence abroad. The president also urging Congress to stop playing politics with troops. Hudson Institute senior fellow Rebecca Heinrich is supporting his America First mentality.
We're getting out of the business of nation building. We're getting out of the business of, trying to meddle in other people's countries where there isn't a clear national security interest for the United States and for Americans. It's going to focus on the threats that we know, that are known, that really harm the United States, and it's going to attack those really head on and try to address them.
Now, President Trump will also address trade imbalances between the United States and China. A brand new bombshell report reveals just how far the Obama administration was willing to go to ensure the 2015 Iran nuclear deal would stay on track. According to Politico, the administration gave the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah a free pass on drug trafficking operations, some unfolding right here in the United States. Officials secretly throwing roadblocks at the DEA, derailing its efforts to track some of its top operatives. Former Obama officials insist their decisions were meant to improve relationships with Iran to help stall its nuclear weapons program. And hundreds of people attending a funeral of a Vietnam veteran and Purple Heart recipient who they never even met. The Indiana Funeral Home couldn't find any of 68-year-old Glenn Shelton's family members, so they reached out on Facebook, inviting people to come pay their respects to the Marine.
I know he's looking down on us and just smiling because his family's here. His family is truly here.
And listen to this. So many people showed up. The ceremony had to be held in a bigger venue where it was still standing room only. Now, I know it is cold here in New York City, but for a more complete look at weather, Janice Dean, what you got?
Are you ready for a warm-up?
Really?
Yes. Yes, it's going to happen here in the New York City area. Temperatures close to 60 degrees by the weekend, and then it'll come all the way down again. So let's take a look at it. We've got warm air coming from the south ahead of this boundary. 34 right now in New York. We had a little bit of snow flurry activity north and west of the city, and you can see where the cold air is across the central U.S. There are the temperature changes, but I mean, we're really going to reach far into the 50s this weekend, even the 60s by week's end. So the past 24 hours, you see all of that abundant moisture coming in from the Gulf of Mexico up towards the northeast, but not a big deal here. And again, the big story here is going to be the extreme warm-up that's going to happen this week. So a little bit of snow across northern New England, but look at New York as we get into later on Tuesday, 40, 50 degrees, and then again by the weekend into the 60s. Also quickly want to make mention that we have better conditions for firefighters across Southern California. Those winds are going to die down, not getting the moisture, but they're going to get a break in the weather for the firefighters out there in Southern California.
Boy,
back to you, Carly and Rob.
I don't know how I feel about the warm-up, though.
A little crazy, not going to lie.
Right,
a little
right before
unnatural.
Christmas.
Yeah.
And it is one of the busiest travel weeks of the year, Janice, and we do have a Fox News alert coming up on this busy travel week going into Christmas. Chaos in Atlanta. The lights finally back on after a blackout cripples the world's busiest airport.
Every hour it just kept increasing and increasing by an hour of delay until they finally told us that it would be 6 hours.
What a mess in Atlanta. We're there live as air traffic control desperately tries to get things back on track.
And former world heavyweight champion George Foreman rediscovers his left hook. Wait until you see this.
All right, welcome back. A Fox News Alert. Power finally back on at the world's busiest airport after a massive outage brought flights to a standstill, stranding thousands of passengers.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Mark Teichner from our Fox affiliate in Atlanta is live inside the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport with the latest. Mark, what's going on?
Well, guys, the good news is the lights are back on. The bad news is a whole lot of people inconvenienced. This is a line of people trying to be rebooked. This is just one of 5 similar lines here on the Delta side. The guy in the front of this line, the kid, is a teenager, college kid, trying to get back for the end of the semester. He's been in this line for more than 3 hours trying to get home. He says he will fly anywhere on the East Coast and have his dad come pick him up and bring him to Pennsylvania. We talked to 2 other people in this line. They say they're trying to get to Charlotte. You could drive to Charlotte from Atlanta for 3 hours. They say they're not going to get to Charlotte till probably Wednesday night. Gives you an idea of just how bad this has been. The power was out for 10+ hours here at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, world's busiest airport, all because of a fire at a substation. The fire is out, the power is back on, but obviously it's going to take some time. 900 flights last night, Delta alone canceled. 300 more canceled, and Delta's hoping to have service restored operational by the middle of the afternoon, but it's going to take an awful lot longer for some of these people to get where they're going. Reporting live from Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta, I'm Mark Teichner, Fox News.
And all of this leading into some of the busiest travel days. We'll see how those residual delays affect everything. Mark, thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
A 4-year-old girl